You've spent too much of your life worrying about what other people might think, when the truth is, at most of them aren't even thinking about you. We live in a world where everyone is watching, but almost no one is really looking. The fear of judgment has become so normal that people mistake it for wisdom. They call it being cautious, being private, being realistic. But what it really is hiding. The fear of being seen doesn't start on camera, it starts in the mind. It's that small, familiar voice that says, "What if I'm not good enough? What if they laugh? What if I fail publicly?" It's that old memory of being criticized, corrected, or rejected when you dared to stand out. Somewhere along the way, you learned that being visible felt dangerous. And ever since, you've been shrinking yourself in small, subtle ways, making sure not to shine too brightly, not to speak too loudly, not to look too confident, because someone might not like it. But here's the truth: you can't connect with people while hiding from them. You can't make an impact while protecting yourself from opinions. You can't lead and stay invisible at the same time. The fear of being seen is the biggest barrier between who you are and who you're capable of becoming. People spend years trying to perfect the image they present to the world, editing every flaw, filtering every imperfection, curating every sentence, and in the process, they lose the very thing that made them magnetic in the first place: their authenticity. The irony is, the thing you think makes you unrelatable is the thing that would make people love you most. You don't need to be flawless to be inspiring. You need to be real. Real connects. Real stands out. Real lasts. The world is full of noise, but authenticity cuts through it. We remember people who are willing to be human in public, people who speak from experience, not ego, people who don't just share their highlight reel, but their hard lessons. That's what courage looks like. Not perfection, but presence. The courage to be seen doesn't come from confidence, it comes from purpose. It's not about saying, "I feel ready." It's about saying, "I have something to say, and I'm not going to let fear silence it." You can't heal in hiding, you can't grow in the shadows. You can't influence the world if you're still editing yourself out of it. At some point, you have to decide that being seen fully, honestly, imperfectly is worth the risk. Think about the people you look up to. They're not perfect. They're consistent. They're visible. They show up even when they're unsure. They share even when they know someone will judge. They speak even when their voice shakes because they've learned something powerful. Judgment doesn't stop when you hide, it just shifts inward. When you silence yourself, you start criticizing yourself. And that's worse than any comment section. You have to decide what's more painful: being misunderstood by others or being disconnected from yourself, because hiding might protect you from rejection, but it also protects you from connection. The very thing you're afraid of, being seen, is the exact thing that will set you free. The truth is, most people aren't thinking about you. They're too busy thinking about themselves, their own insecurities, their own lives, and even when they do judge, it's temporary. They scroll past, they forget. But you live with your silence. You live with the regret of not showing up, not speaking up, not being seen. It's time to stop waiting to be perfect before you participate. Nobody connects with perfection. People connect with presence, they connect with energy, they connect with truth. The world doesn't need another perfectly polished highlight reel. It needs your honesty. And I get it. Putting yourself out there feels vulnerable. Maybe you've been criticized before. Maybe you've been laughed at or dismissed or told you weren't good enough. That pain doesn't just go away, it teaches you to protect yourself. But sometimes what we call protection is actually isolation. You've built walls so high that nobody can hurt you, but nobody can see you either. Courage is choosing to lower those walls, one brick at a time. It's saying, "Yes, I've been hurt before. Yes, I might be hurt again, but I'm going to show up anyway." That's where strength comes from, not from being untouched by fear, but from refusing to let it make you smaller. When you start showing up authentically, something changes, your energy shifts, you stop performing and start connecting. You stop chasing applause and start building alignment. You stop trying to look confident and start becoming confident, because true confidence is born in visibility. You don't get it by staying hidden. You earn it by being brave enough to show up. Even when you're scared, the moment you stop hiding, you start healing. You start realizing that vulnerability doesn't weaken you, it humanizes you. It reminds people that they're not alone. When you show your flaws, you give others permission to show theirs. That's how trust is built. That's how real connection happens. Every time you choose to be seen, you choose growth, you choose authenticity, you choose connection over comfort, you choose purpose over pride. The most dangerous kind of fear isn't the loud kind, it's the quiet kind that convinces you to wait. Wait until I lose weight. Wait until I know more. Wait until I'm ready. But waiting is just fear in disguise, because readiness doesn't come before courage, it comes because of it. You don't need to be fearless, you just need to be willing. Willing to try, willing to learn, willing to risk being seen, because once you do, you'll realize that the people who matter don't expect you to be perfect. They just need you to be real. Here's the secret: you don't find your voice by thinking about it, you find it by using it. Every time you speak, every time you share, every time you create, your voice gets stronger. And yes, at first it'll feel awkward, it'll feel shaky, it'll feel uncomfortable, but that's how every strong voice begins: trembling, uncertain, and brave. If you've ever thought, who am I to share my story? I want you to ask a better question: who am I not to? Someone out there needs to hear your truth in your tone, from your perspective, in your voice. You might not change millions of lives, but you could change one, and that one might change another. That's how impact spreads. You don't have to go viral to matter. You don't have to be famous to be influential. You just have to show up honestly where you are. If even one person feels seen because you were brave enough to be visible, you've already made a difference. The courage to be seen is not about spotlight. It's about self-respect. It's about refusing to keep your gifts buried because you're afraid of being judged. Judgment will come anyway, but the only opinion that truly matters is your own, the one you'll live with for the rest of your life. Imagine this. Years from now, you look back at this season. Will you be proud that you waited until it was safe, or grateful that you started while it was scary? Because those are the only two options. Visibility isn't about vanity, it's about value. It's about giving the world access to the light that only you carry. And when you hold back that light, you rob someone else of the hope they might have found through you. Don't confuse humility with hiding. Hiding is fear pretending to be modesty. Humility is being honest about your gifts without making yourself smaller. You're allowed to be proud of your growth. You're allowed to be confident. You're allowed to be visible. Some people will misunderstand you. That's fine. They misunderstood every person who ever tried to do something different. They criticized every innovator, every creator, every leader, right up until the moment their courage became undeniable. You don't need to be liked by everyone. You just need to be authentic to yourself. So speak, post, share, create, show up. Do it messy, scared, imperfect, but do it. Because the more you do it, the easier it becomes. Repetition turns fear into familiarity, and familiarity turns courage into confidence. You're not supposed to be fearless, you're supposed to be brave. And bravery doesn't mean you don't feel afraid. It means you don't let fear make your decisions for you. Every time you take action in spite of fear, you teach your brain a new truth: I can survive being seen. And that rewiring is what sets you free. You have to remind yourself that most of the criticism you fear will never happen. The audience in your head is louder than the audience in real life. The majority of people you worry about impressing are too distracted, too self-conscious, and too busy scrolling to notice half the things you're scared of revealing. What you're fighting is a projection, not a person. It's not their judgment you're afraid of, it's your own. We are our own harshest critics. We replay every awkward word, every stumble, every imperfection like it's proof we shouldn't have shown up in the first place. But what you call mistakes, other people call relatable. They don't see the flaw you obsess over, they see a human being doing their best. And that's what connects them to you. When you learn to forgive yourself for not being perfect, the world suddenly feels less threatening. The more compassion you show yourself, the less control fear has. Because fear feeds on self-criticism, courage feeds on self-acceptance. You can't hate yourself into confidence. You build it through grace and repetition. Stop waiting for permission. Nobody is coming to tell you you're ready. The moment you decide you've waited long enough is the moment everything changes. The truth is, you already know what you want to do, you already feel that pull, but you've been bargaining with fear, telling it, I'll move when I'm not scared. Fear's answer will always be the same: not yet. So move anyway. Press record anyway. Step on stage anyway. Say the thing anyway. You'll feel your heart race, your hands shake, your voice tremble. And that's okay. Those sensations are proof that you're alive, that you care, that you're leaning into growth. Courage isn't the absence of nerves, it's the decision to show up with them. Every time you share something real, your story, your idea, your truth, someone out there exhales. They think, finally, someone said it. Your vulnerability becomes their permission slip. That's why being seen matters. You never know who's quietly waiting for your example to start their own journey. There's always risk in visibility. You might be misunderstood, you might be judged, but you also might be remembered, you might be respected, you might be the exact message someone needed at the exact right time. Playing small guarantees nothing will happen. Showing up guarantees something will. You can't control people's opinions, but you can control your intention. If your intention is honest, rooted in service and truth, then no criticism can invalidate it. You'll learn to separate feedback from noise. Feedback helps you grow. Noise just tries to slow you down. And the more you show up, the easier it becomes to tell the difference. Don't aim for perfect posts, aim for honest ones. Don't aim for flawless speeches, aim for heartfelt ones. Don't aim to impress, aim to impact. Because people might forget what you said, but they'll never forget how your authenticity made them feel. Confidence grows through exposure. The first time you post, you'll overthink it. The second time, you'll question it less. By the 10th, you'll wonder why you ever hesitated. The fear doesn't disappear because life got easier. It fades because you got stronger. Repetition rewires the brain. Every act of visibility tells your nervous system, I survived. Eventually, fear becomes background noise. Be willing to be a beginner in public. That's something most people will never do, and it's exactly why they stay stuck. Everyone wants mastery, but few are willing to be seen in the process of learning. When you allow yourself to grow in plain sight, you inspire others to start before they're ready too. Stop chasing approval metrics. Likes, shares, and comments don't equal worth. True impact happens quietly, in private messages, in hearts, in shifts of perspective you'll never see. You might reach 10 people today, and one of them could be the reason someone doesn't give up. Never underestimate the quiet power of your presence. And remember, authenticity is magnetic, but it's also polarizing. Not everyone will resonate with you, and that's okay. The point isn't to please everyone, it's to reach the right ones. Every time someone doesn't connect, that's space opening for someone who will. Your job is to stay true, not to stay liked. When you hide, you betray your own potential. When you step forward, you honor it. Visibility isn't arrogance, it's stewardship. It's saying, I've been given this voice, this story, this perspective, and I won't bury it. That's humility in action. You don't have to show everything. Boundaries are healthy, but don't confuse privacy with hiding. Privacy protects what's sacred, hiding protects what's scared. You know the difference by how it feels. One brings peace, the other brings shame. When sharing makes you feel lighter, that's truth freeing you. When silence feels heavy, that's fear holding you. If you want to create anything meaningful, you have to risk visibility. Art, business, leadership, they all require being seen. You can't influence from invisibility. You can't build trust from behind a mask. People don't need you to be perfect. They need you to be present. Every time you turn the camera on, every time you stand on stage, every time you say your truth in a conversation that matters, you're training your courage. And courage, like any muscle, grows with use. At first it shakes, then it steadies, then it strengthens. You might lose some people when you step into visibility, but those are the ones attached to your smaller self. The version of you who stayed quiet, agreeable, unseen. Let them go. You'll gain others who resonate with the real you. That exchange is part of growth. It's tempting to retreat when criticism comes, but remember, criticism usually means you're doing something visible enough to notice. Invisible people aren't criticized, they're ignored. You can't be both impactful and unnoticed. Choose impact. Comparison is another thief of courage. You see someone else with a bigger following, a smoother delivery, a more polished image, and you start to shrink. But you're comparing your backstage to their highlight reel. You're seeing the finished product, not the years of awkward first attempts behind it. Don't compete with their chapter 20 when you're on your chapter 2. Every creator you admire was once terrified too. Celebrate your progress. You pressed record when you wanted to delete. You spoke up when you wanted to stay quiet. You posted when you almost talked yourself out of it. That's courage, that's growth. You can't measure it in numbers. You measure it in moments when you showed up despite the fear. The people who change the world aren't fearless, they're willing to be misunderstood, willing to look silly, willing to risk their ego for their purpose. That's what makes them unforgettable. The more you show up, the more aligned your world becomes. Opportunities start finding you because visibility creates access. People can't support what they can't see. When you hide your work, you block your blessings. But when you step into the light, the right people recognize you. Doors open, collaboration starts, momentum builds. Sometimes courage looks quiet, like sending an email, making a call, recording a 1 minute video. Small actions compound into confidence. Don't underestimate the micro moments. They're the foundation of momentum. Courage to be seen isn't something you get once, it's something you choose daily. Every day you wake up with the option to retreat or reveal. Choose reveal, even a small reveal, even a 5% more authentic version of yourself. Over time, those small acts of bravery accumulate into a life of integrity. You will have days where you post and nobody reacts, days when your effort feels unseen. Remember, silence doesn't mean failure, it means incubation. Seeds sprout underground before they break the surface. Keep watering your courage, keep showing up. The harvest comes later. You can't control how fast the world recognizes your courage, but you can control how faithfully you practice it. Let your consistency speak louder than your fear. And when you doubt yourself, go back to your why. Why does it matter that you're visible? Who benefits when you show up? Whose life might shift because you shared? Anchor to that. When purpose gets louder, fear gets quieter. Visibility isn't about spotlight, it's about service. It's about using your gifts in plain sight so they can actually help someone. Your story can't heal anyone if it stays hidden. Your message can't reach anyone if it stays unspoken. Your creativity can't inspire anyone if it stays unpublished. Be seen so you can serve. When people tell you you've changed, smile. That's the point. Growth is visible. It should be. You didn't come this far to stay unrecognized. You came this far to model what courage looks like in real time. There will come a moment when you realize that hiding was never keeping you safe. It was keeping you small. Every time you chose invisibility, you also chose limitation. You told your dreams to wait. You told your voice to whisper. You told your purpose to be patient. But purpose doesn't like being patient. It will keep nudging you, gently at first, then louder until you can't ignore it anymore. You'll start to feel it as restlessness, that quiet ache that says there's more in you than you're showing. You'll catch yourself daydreaming about the life you could have if you weren't afraid of being seen. That's not fantasy, that's direction. Your imagination is trying to remind you what you're capable of. At some point, you have to stop editing yourself down to fit the comfort of others. You have to stop apologizing for the volume of your voice, the size of your vision, the boldness of your heart, because the truth is, the people who truly belong in your life won't be threatened by your light. They'll be illuminated by it. Some will misunderstand you. Let them. Their opinion is not your assignment. Their misunderstanding is not your problem to fix. Your job is to keep telling the truth, to keep showing up, to keep creating from honesty. The moment you start deluding yourself to please critics, you lose the very thing that made you worth watching in the first place. Don't trade authenticity for approval. Approval expires the moment you make a mistake. Authenticity endures through all of them. When you are authentic, you don't have to remember what you said, how you posed, or what version of yourself you presented. You can just live. That's freedom. And freedom is what people are truly drawn to. Courage doesn't always look loud. Sometimes it's quiet and internal. It's closing the laptop and saying, I'll try again tomorrow. It's rewriting the caption even after deleting the last one 5 times. It's standing in front of the mirror and deciding to believe you're enough right now, not 10 pounds from now or 10 years from now. It's the subtle daily choice to participate in your own life instead of sitting it out. One day you'll realize that nobody was ever judging you as harshly as you judged yourself. The imaginary audience in your head disappears the moment you start living instead of performing. People who are truly watching are not looking for your flaws, they're looking for courage. They want to know it's still possible to live honestly in a filtered world. There's a myth that courage is something you either have or don't, but courage isn't a personality trait. It's a practice. It's built through repetition, just like any other muscle. The first few times you show up, you'll shake. The next few, you'll sweat. Then one day, you'll look up and realize you're doing it without thinking. Courage becomes your new default. You'll notice that the opinions that once felt crushing barely register anymore. You'll stop writing for approval and start writing for impact. You'll stop performing for praise and start speaking for purpose. That shift changes everything because once your why gets bigger than your fear, nothing can stop you. There will be moments when you fall back into hiding. That's okay. Old habits take time to unlearn. The goal isn't to be fearless every day, it's to return to bravery faster. When you catch yourself shrinking, don't judge it. Notice it, breathe, remind yourself why you started, and step forward again. Courage isn't perfection, it's persistence. Every act of visibility plants a seed. You may not see the growth right away, but something is taking root each time you show up. A community begins to form. Opportunities align. People you've never met start seeing themselves in you. That's how movements start, with one person willing to be visible. When you decide to live boldly, you inspire permission in others. The parent who finally posts their story, the student who finds their voice, the leader who admits they don't have all the answers. Your courage multiplies itself in others without you even knowing it. That's why your presence matters. Never underestimate the ripple effect of authenticity. You might not get credit for every wave you create, but you'll feel it. You'll feel it in the messages that say, "You helped me do this," or in the quiet gratitude from someone who finally found their own courage after watching yours. If you ever feel tired of showing up, remember, visibility is a privilege. There was a time you prayed for the platform, the opportunity, the audience, the chance to speak. Now you have it. Don't let fear make you forget it. Use it wisely, use it honestly, use it fully. And if you still worry about being judged, remember this: people will judge you no matter what you do. If you hide, they'll judge your silence. If you speak, they'll judge your tone. If you fail, they'll judge your outcome. If you succeed, they'll judge your confidence. So you might as well be judged for being real. The people meant for you won't need convincing. They'll recognize your energy immediately. They'll see themselves in your transparency. They'll respect your growth even when it's messy. The rest, they'll scroll by. Let them. The longer you practice courage, the more natural it becomes. One day, you'll look back at the version of yourself who hesitated to press record or share their truth, and you'll feel nothing but compassion, because that version of you was brave enough to begin. Everything you want, connection, confidence, fulfillment, is on the other side of visibility, but you have to walk through discomfort to get there. You have to embrace the awkward pauses, the shaky voice, the imperfect takes. Every great communicator you admire has hours of footage you'll never see, footage filled with stumbles, restarts, and self doubt. What made them great wasn't talent, it was tenacity. Don't quit because you're uncomfortable. Discomfort is proof you're stretching. Growth doesn't happen in the comfort zone, it happens in the exposure zone. Every time you show up scared, you expand the space you can operate in freely. That's what progress feels like. Eventually, the fear that once froze you will become fuel. You'll start to crave the feeling of pushing your edge. You'll realize that fear and excitement live in the same part of the body. The only difference is interpretation. Fear says, "I might fail." Excitement says, "This might work." Train yourself to hear excitement. The courage to be seen is the courage to be misunderstood, misquoted, and misjudged, and to keep going anyway. You don't need everyone to understand you. You need to understand yourself. You need to be at peace with your own reflection. Because when you accept yourself fully, the world's noise becomes background music. At the end of the day, what matters most is that you showed up, that you spoke when it mattered, that you allowed yourself to be visible, vulnerable, and human. The people who never risk being seen will never experience the fullness of connection, love, or legacy. Legacy isn't built on silence, it's built on stories. And stories require someone brave enough to tell them. So tell yours. Tell it often. Tell it in every form you can, through your words, your work, your presence. Every time you do, you make the world a little more honest. You were not created to be invisible. You were created to shine, to lead, to express, to remind others what real courage looks like. Not the kind that's loud and flawless, but the kind that's raw, truthful, and human. So let them see you, the real you, the unfiltered, learning, imperfect, growing you, the version that's still figuring it out but refuses to hide. Because that's the version that changes lives. That's the version people remember. And one day, someone will come to you and say, "Because you were brave enough to be seen, I finally found the courage to be seen too." And in that moment, every ounce of fear, every anxious heartbeat, every shaky beginning will make sense. That's the reward of visibility. That's the power of authenticity. That's the freedom that comes when you finally stop hiding and let the world see you. Because the courage to be seen isn't about the audience, it's about alignment. It's about becoming the version of yourself that no longer needs to hide. It's about living fully, loving openly, and standing proudly in the light of your own truth. The fear will still whisper, let it, but keep walking, keep showing up, keep speaking your truth, Because courage doesn't silence fear, it outpaces it. And every time you choose visibility over avoidance, honesty over perfection, authenticity over approval, you become a little more unshakable, a little more confident, a little more free. So, this is your reminder: the world doesn't need another copy, it needs you. Real, raw, unfiltered, brave you. Show up, be seen, stay seen, and let your courage light the way for everyone still hiding in the dark. That's the power of being visible. That's the courage to be seen.